We're in downtown Oklahoma City on Park Street, standing under these beautiful bald cypress trees. And this is a very unique set of circumstances that we have going on down here. Part of the 180 project, where they are revitalizing a lot of the downtown area in Oklahoma City. They've been coming in and putting in a lot of new technology. They have been putting in wonderful trees. But a year and a half ago, a little bit before this phase of that project started, there was a couple of the property owners in the downtown area that really loved these two big, beautiful bald cypress trees. And so what we had there is an early connection between a private property owner, contacted the city council at the time. City council got a hold of the city engineer got a hold of the planning department. The planning department started talking with the architects and the engineers. And then that's where they brought me into it as a consulting urban forester with Oklahoma Forestry Services. They got all these minds together and they started thinking about, if they're going to do this project, how could they best do it and protect these trees? And so that's what's been going on down here throughout this last year. They're doing a lot of wonderful work down here in helping protect these trees during this really what might have the first appearance of being a really abrasive construction period. One of the first parts of the construction that we actually had to do, or Rudy had to do, was tear out all the asphalt or all the concrete and the sidewalk that was in this area. And so I'm standing on an area right now of where used to be the old sidewalk. And so we really didn't know where these trees' roots were. I mean, we knew that they were growing beyond just those 4x4 cutouts that they originally were planted in, I don't know, back in the 80s or something. But we didn't really know where they were at. And so we had to be really careful throughout that whole process to make sure that when they removed the sidewalk, that they didn't damage the tree's roots. And that's where Rudy was really doing a great job on it. They came out with jackhammers, they jackhammered it out, and they very carefully picked all that concrete out. When we removed the sidewalk underneath the drip line of the tree, it was fortunate that we didn't find many trees' roots. The second part of that is when they came in around the beds of the where the pre-existing beds were around where these trees, and you can kind of get a sense right here just how small and how square those things were. To me, it's amazing that these trees were alive. They're 4 stories tall, and they were planted in these like 4x5 cutouts. I mean, that's just truly an incredible story. But the second part of that, then they had to remove all those cutouts. And when they did that, what you can see here is on this nice flat area here, these trees' roots are very fluid. And so they came over here, and see how flat this is right here. Those weren't cut. What happened is when this tree root grew out here, it hit that footing around there and it just slowly grew down into that. So that's actually the natural side of where that root was. And so we started exposing some of those roots all the way around here. You can see another one here, like that. And so we started seeing a lot of that. Whenever you expose roots in a construction site, it's okay. I mean, think of a ball and burlap tree. What happens? You cut a lot of those roots off and you take that to the nursery, you take it home and you replant it and the tree does fine. So we knew that we were going to be hitting some of these roots. We knew that we were going to be cutting or having to cut some of these roots, and that's really okay. There's a really special way you need to do that, and I want to show you the way we do it right here. So this is one of the existing roots that we've already have treated whenever we've come across it. You can see that we have cleanly cut it right here. And whenever we do this, you'll see this is exposed here. So we come back and we make a nice clean cut on that root, protecting it on the inside there. Then we take moist soil and then pack back around that root. And so what will happen now is with that nice clean cut, new roots will begin to develop. If it was just a jagged cut, that probably wouldn't happen. So you can see here, there's a number of other roots that we're beginning to expose them a little bit farther away from the tree, closer to the building. And you can get a real sense here why I believe that we're seeing more roots is because underneath here you can see this pipe going in here, and you can just see how sandy that is. And everywhere else around here where I'm standing was this really gravel, compacted soil and everything. But underneath here, we're seeing that for whatever the reason, on that part of the sidewalk, they put a lot of the sand as the subgrade before they poured the sidewalk. So since we didn't find many roots here, what we're beginning to think now is that's where we're going to see a lot of the tree's roots, and we're certainly starting to see that a lot with all these exposed roots here. Now, some of these roots we're going to go back and cut, and they do look rather exposed right now, but this is one of those added things that we did. It's really not that exposed, because what the construction company is doing is they're covering these with tarps. And they're watering this twice a week to make sure those trees' roots stay moist. Well, there's no tarps here today because it rained all last night. So they took the tarps off, the rain came, and they're going to be putting the tarps back around that. So all these exposed roots here, we may come back at some point and start cutting some of them and doing what we just showed you previously, but for the most part, these roots are being protected with tarps. Now, because this is such a sandy grade, that's why we're believing that we're going to be finding more of these trees' roots underneath this part of the sidewalk. So that's the second phase of doing this preservation. Is the first phase was along the street here where I'm standing. The second phase is now behind from this portion to where the buildings are. And they're going to take great care to pull that off back and be really careful during that whole process. Because it's such a sandy blend over there and we're expecting to see a lot of roots, the second part of this is going to be having to take great care in removing that. And once they remove that, what we'll probably find is a lot more roots underneath there since we didn't find them here. They're going to use a very careful process of jackhammers pulling that back. The good news is that to get this up to code, they're going to have to add a little extra fill on that. And so they're actually going to elevate the sidewalk just a little bit more. And so if those roots are really shallow under there, they're going to still be able to add a little structured soil is what we're going to be using on that. And that's just something that you can get the compaction and pour the concrete on top of that. So this is just one of those projects that's going on in Oklahoma City that it's just one of those things that just because you have revitalization that's going on doesn't necessarily mean that you have to totally get rid of what you had to put in something new, because trees really truly are an investment. And these trees have been around for so many years. They're in such great shape, it would really be a shame if they weren't provided for during this next phase of revitalization. So these are the kind of projects that Oklahoma Forestry Services just is very proud to play a small part in. So if you have projects like this or know about projects like this that are going on in your community where trees are involved and construction is involved, please get a hold of us. We'd be happy to come out and help.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.